Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, and joining me is fellow SteelerNation.com forum member and sports writer, Bill Washinski. Bill, how you been, man?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great.
Welcome to the podcast. I know we had a nice, we jumped on and we did some film breakdown last week, so it's great to have you on the cast.
Great to be back. Thanks.
And you joining my co-host here, Lexi the cat, who always roots for the Bengals because of her stripes. And but other than that, we got two Steeler fans here ready to talk. And before we get into it, I at least want to show everybody here at Steeler Nation, we always have something new and exciting going on with our sponsors at Total Sports Enterprises. And over here on Twitter, they have a giveaway, and it's playoff week, so they're giving away an 11x14 Minkah Fitzpatrick signed photo. So all you have to do, jump on over, check them out at Total Sports ENT, retweet it. That's it. They pick the winner tomorrow. So good luck, Steeler Nation. Get a free prize, get a free present. And that's all thanks to Total Sports Enterprises. And moving on, we got the Browns, since we had the Browns last week. And you know, crazy news coming out is all the big COVID news. And that is that we at least know on our end, Joe Hayden's not going to make the game if they're playing on Sunday. He's on the 10-day. He was a positive. We're still waiting to hear on Ebron and Marsh, but they were technically close contacts. So they're on the 5-day, and we will find out tomorrow whether or not they're able to play. Oliver Vernon, who had a sack in the game, just blew out his Achilles, so he will not play the rest of this upcoming game. And now I was telling Bill, we were talking even on the forum last week. I'm like, this is an outbreak. It's like the NFL just decided to ignore the fact that Cleveland Browns had successive positive tests, and they didn't go 2 days without a positive test. They went 1 day without a positive test. Then bam, they had another positive test right before the game. And now their entire coaching staff, their entire offensive coaching staff is pretty much screwed, starting with head coach and play caller Kevin Stefanski. Then you got the offensive line coach Callahan. They've got offensive line assistants Peters, wide receiver coach O'Shea, tight end coach Peltzing, and their left guard Bettino. And it looks like wide receiver Hodge are all currently out as of today. They're gone. They cannot play. And these are all positives. So this is crazy. That's a huge positive spike. And the head coach and acting head coach is going to be Mike Prefer, their special teams coach, and of course close the facility. So what are your thoughts on that there?
Well, if you recall, I said on the forum after the Steelers were rescheduled for the 3 games and 12-day stretch that they played their hand, that they did not want to extend the season another week.
Yeah,
it might have been in the best interest of the league at that point in time to suspend play for all teams and maybe for 2 weeks and then just push it back and let everybody kind of regroup at that point. But they played their hand. You could tell they did not want to extend it. And you're exactly right. It's just proven to be a fact that the Browns did have an outbreak. It's continuing.
Yep.
And they're put in a pretty bad position, and it's unfortunate for them that this situation's happening like that. It's not how you want to win a game, is take on a team that is depleted and there's beyond their the scope of their control.
Yeah, not at all.
I put the blame on the NFL for this one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had the Facebook feed. I had to call that up so we can start watching out. We got people watching. Geez, Sherry from Arizona. We got Jeanette from from Yazoo City, Missouri. Wow, very cool. Is MS Missouri or is MS Mississippi? I think MS is Missouri, if I'm remembering my old abbreviations for postal codes.
MI is Mississippi.
MI is Mississippi. Great. Oh, that's awesome.
No, MI is Michigan. Oh my goodness, I'm not going to get that wrong.
Yeah, and Linda's also asking us right now about a playoff bubble for the NFL. Obviously, we're not doing a playoff bubble in the NFL this week for the playoffs. I think there's still too many teams. If it gets down to a Final Four, they might consider it. And another thing too, I just wanted to make a point, Bill. When we played the Ravens, I remember Humphreys was negative. He was ill, but he was negative. Ended up being positive when he played us. Then a week later, that's when Vance McDonald had his injury, his COVID positive. So I had to relook that up today because somebody said that it happened the other way around, but it did not. We played the Ravens. Then 2 weeks later, Vance McDonald missed a game with COVID-19. That's a possibility because the Ravens were with an outbreak at that time for us getting that.
That was my only break that I was giving Vance McDonald in that game against Dallas for performing that. Perhaps he was feeling some early symptoms.
Yes.
Out of the whole thing. So
it turned out that he had it. I mean, he was sick. He missed practice on Friday. He did play in the game because he was still testing negative, didn't test positive till the following week. And that was the week that we had everybody sitting down pretty much for 5 days. Ben didn't practice. He had Dotson not practicing. So that was a big week for us. COVID. That was probably our biggest COVID week, other than this past little,
except for everybody who play. It's our big COVID week.
I know, right? Which is good because everybody else is like, COVID weeks are like crazy. Because now we're at playing the third team on our schedule with an outbreak. And now it's technically 4 straight teams because Cleveland back to back, we played them during their outbreak and they're still having their outbreak. We're supposed to be playing them again this weekend. And my problem isn't necessarily playing them, Bill. My problem is what happens in 2 weeks if we have an outbreak because of these positive COVID cases from Cleveland that end up showing up on Steelers players and then it infects our team. That's what I'm worried about.
That's a legitimate concern. That's exactly the first thing that goes on my risk register is, going forward.
Yeah.
Because the incubation time, I mean, we're not doctors here, but we can follow the basics of it. It takes time for it to manifest and it could happen, it's very, very high likelihood. It's a high risk probability that we're going to face that. Yeah. So we'll have to just wait and see. There's nothing that we can do to change it. But we can hope that nothing happens on there. And it does put the Browns at a decided disadvantage for this game.
Definitely does, especially since their head coach is their play caller.
And it just disrupts their flow and their rhythm. So it's very difficult for a team anybody to perform when you're not in a structure. And, that's just life. You have to have a structure and the timing frame and what you do, habit. Their habits are all thrown off. It's going to be very difficult for them to overcome that.
And moving on to the game, last week, I know we rested a lot of starters. We know Hayden and Watt and Pouncey and Ben. And of course, then, we also had Ebron and Marsh and Hayden sitting out with COVID. And it created an instance where we got to see a lot of our younger players play. And surprisingly, it was a very competitive game. Mason Rudolph ended up throwing for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. That's his career high for yardage. Josh Dobbs, I really liked the utilization of Josh Dobbs in that, like wildcat kind of like, but he's a wildcat that's a quarterback. So we're having problems with 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You and I have always been talking about this back and forth. And now it seems like there's a positive when you have Dobbs get on the field because you don't know if he's going to quarterback option it. You don't know if he's going to throw it. You don't know if he's going to hand it off. So it really creates a nice wrinkle to maybe hopefully get us past this issue that we've been having converting their 3rd and 4th and 1s in these past 5 weeks.
If you remember when I put out a couple of solutions ideas, one of which was to kind of copycat the New Orleans Saints strategy with Bill and put Dobbs in there for a play or 2 at maximum. You don't want to obviously take Ben out of the game, but you put him in there. He is fast and he can, inside a play or 2 during the game that can be the difference between converting a first down and continuing to drive. Mm-hmm. The same way that Antoine Renderell did back in the day in 2005. They did a lot of little gadget plays that were not big plays.
No,
they were just designed to continue the drive and score. So it's those hidden plays, those small plays that something he could do and bring in there. It couldn't hurt.
No, nobody ran those inside screens like Randall L. and Ward because watching them go twice to Vance McDonald, bless his heart. I mean, they tried to set those up both times, but he at least got some positive yardage as opposed to us getting tackled in the backfield. So that was a slight positive, but still got some work to do there. Interesting stuff with the offense as well. Josh Dobbs being 4 for 5 for 2 yards, So since 1950, Dobbs is one of 2 quarterbacks in NFL history with 4 completions and 5 or fewer yards. The only other one to do it
Yes,
was
that's an
Detroit's.
amazing stat.
Yeah.
It is reminiscent of the.
Yeah. And you have to go all the way back to Greg Landry in Detroit, who went 4 for 14 for 3 yards in 1977. And Steelers offense also hitting a low point for their special teams. And for offense, they've scored 0 points in the first quarter over the final 7 games. And they've only scored 1 offensive touchdown in the last 10. And they have just 1 touchdown on opening drives in the last 2 years. So out of 32 games, 1 touchdown. And I know that's got to fall solidly on Randy Fichtner. And I see you're frozen here. I'll see if I can get you to jumpstart because I got nothing here. Let me check out Facebook. I can talk to you a little bit, Facebook, since I got Bill frozen a little bit. He'll jump right back on here. We'll see him soon. And Mississippi, thank you for correcting us there, Jeanette. I appreciate it. Pittsburgh. We see some Pittsburgh in the house. Always good to have Pittsburgh for Steeler Nation. And Jeanette, I think that this is why I don't have a problem with next year's football, because by the time we get back to the NFL as a normal, the vaccine is going to be readily available for the general public in the summertime, which means the entire NFL will have it. It's going to be a lot easier, Jeanette, next year than to worry about it. But for this year, it would be helpful if the playoff teams were able to get it, because that's at least a smaller amount. Maybe if we get a little farther into the playoffs. But the problem is it's a 2-shot vaccine, which takes about 4 weeks in between each shot. So it's not really going to help if we wait. It would have to have been done now to keep the Super Bowl teams, in line and ready to go. And David, I don't think they should draft a quarterback right now. I still think that we're on the Ben train until Ben's down. But I know Bill has some great points too about going out and getting your guys. And I can talk to him. So welcome back, Bill. I'm sorry I saw you drop, and it's fine. I can always talk.
Cut out on here again.
Yeah, no. And I was talking about how our offense is 1 for 32 now on opening drives, scoring a touchdown in the past 2 years. And I guess that's got to fall solidly on Randy Fichtner and his design, because he has the beginning 10 plays scripted. So this has got to speak. I don't have a problem with him as an offensive coordinator, because we end up coming back and winning games. I have a problem with him being able to script plays to start a game.
Well, that would mean I've not been a big fan of Randy Fichtner, and I'm not somebody who wants to just bash on coaches just to do so.
Yeah.
I actually was I was an advocate for Haley, because I like what direction he turned us into. Mm-hmm. It just obviously he did not work out as a coach in terms of relationships.
Yeah,
he's a little abrasive, but I like his direction and thought process. I don't see that from Fichtner. I don't see him adapting or adjusting on the fly. Despite the comebacks, that still feels like it's more Ben doing, wild card Ben, that the gunslinger when he seems to do that.
Yeah.
So he, I'm not big on what he's done as our offense coordinator. The fact that our quarterbacks did as bad as they did last year was from my take, that was just abysmal performance to expect from a professional starter that I've, for over 30 years of watching this team. I've seen Mark Malone go in there when he was bad, and still perform better. So it's not that hard to play at a higher level than they had at the end of last year. It seemed they couldn't even get a first down.
But at least they started getting the running game moving a little bit this past game. We had 87 yards rushing. And the interesting thing to me was not necessarily the total yards, because James had 37 yards. It was their average. So now he's carrying at 4.1 yards a carry on 9 carries. Josh Dobbs had 10 yards on two carries for 20 yards. Anthony McFadden at 3.4 yards on 5 carries for 17. And Benny Snell 3 for 10 with a 3.3. So all of our running backs were over a 3-yard carry average. So that could be seen as a positive moving forward, since we've had so much trouble just trying to establish even anything on the ground. And it's a far cry from those 20-yard games that we've had.
And I was wanting to see us hit the 100-yard mark as a team.
Yeah.
Not any one particular player came up a little short of that because they were passing at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was encouraging to see that. And from what little I have had a chance to review the game, Dotson in particular, it was good, solid blocking there. And with the Browns having their problems this week, maybe a chance to get a little bit more of their timing and rhythm again going forward, because that ground game's got to be a little bit more effective.
Yeah, especially with Oliver Gibson being out with his injury as well, so that's going to hurt them. With the passing game, though, at least Chase Claypool had his best game: 5 catches, 101 yards, a touchdown on 11 targets, and he has now tied Lewis Lips for 9 receptions and ties Franco Harris and Lips for 11 total touchdowns as a rookie. So there's our rookie records, and also set the rookie receptions records with 61. So great year from Chase, and it's nice to see them starting to use him again at the end of the season now.
And one of the big concerns for Cleveland, and they don't have any more than we know for Hayden for certain, is Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
And what's happening with him. He is a phenomenal football player, and what Juju and Chase were basically able to do was old school post up against their cornerbacks. They were really hurting trying to defend these guys. Particularly that one, the big play to Deontay Johnson, where the safety couldn't get over. That's one where if Ward's in there, he's an outstanding defensive back and can make a difference. So he's someone to keep an eye on. There's an uncertainty about him, even from their side. They don't know.
Yeah.
So if he's going to play in the game or not, he is a big reason. And even then, they're still going to be mismatched on the wide receiver versus the defensive back. Yeah. Because they are thin at the position there too. That's a definite advantage for us. So as far as the running game goes, it might not be as big of a deal this week because that passing game has some real matchups that it can take advantage of. Yes. Even if even if Ward comes back, there's still a matchup problem there.
Yeah. And Deontay Johnson had an interesting stat line because usually he's the guy out there getting, 8, 9, 10 catches a game. This time he only had 4 targets, 3 catches for 96 yards. So it looked like he was doing the job of stretching the field as opposed to being the possession guy. So it was nice to see that kind of change of pace and that kind of expansion of his skill set to show that, he's more of just turning and catching the ball kind of guy on those, short and intermediate routes.
Right. And it didn't seem to you like they were rotating the guys a lot more in and out.
Yes.
So that
a lot quicker, like Washington getting on the field a lot more. Yeah. And they were rotating them in to get the 4 on the field and taking out McDonald as well, too, at times.
Yeah. So nobody had to play too much during the game. So that the strategy was get everybody through healthy. That was a mission accomplished on there. So, some great big plays and good running. But really, that's a game that we should have won. It works to our advantage.
Could have won. Yeah, definitely one we could have won.
If we would have lost that game playing against the Colts, I don't know if that's as good of a matchup for us.
Yeah.
In terms of, Phillip Rivers can, a lot of people say he pads the stats, and he does, but he still has the talent to make a difference in a game.
Yeah, he does. He's a good quarterback. Steelers third down efficiency went way up. So 8 for 17 on third downs, and that's 2 for 2 on fourth down as well. So they converted 10 of their 17 chances there for the third down makes, which is it's much better than what we've been doing here the past few weeks, being way under like even 30% conversion records. So that's a positive. Browns were at 50% though. They were at 6 for 12. Penalties. This was a crazy game. Like they didn't call any game penalties like within the whistles. Anything was either procedural or pre-snap. So they caught us with a guy down the field. But the only one that they called was Villanueva's hold. When watching that one, it was ticky-tack. It was like one of these, like that quickly, just a touch and release. And
the officiating was suspect.
It was suspect. Yeah, missing the doming of Rudolph there when he threw his interception and got two-handed in the helmet and his head snapped sideways. Surprised they didn't call that. It was not like it was a light touch. Like I would have never called if a guy's like hand touches the helmet, slides down. Like I know that gets called, but I'd never be upset for that. But when the quarterback's head snaps sideways from a two-handed punch to the face, that's when it should be called.
And that's Mason Rudolph not being a star. And
I know, yeah. They know him a
officials
little better than maybe.
They just pay attention to the guys that have earned the stripes. Ben's going to get that call because their eyes are looking at it.
Yeah, and here's the thing that surprised me too on defense was even without Watt and Hayward and Hayden, Steelers still ended up with 4 sacks and 6 TFLs. You had Tuitt, Elliott, Highsmith, and Wormley coming through. And Highsmith, man, this was a great game because I really got to like clue in and really watch Highsmith play the entire game. And I just did a breakdown for him for hidden plays of the game. On his sack, he was defended by 2 players. He got chipped by the tight end, worked around the tight end, then did a rip under around the outside of the left tackle for the sack. It was brilliant. And this is the stuff that I want to get excited about because this guy might be our starting outside linebacker since Bud Dupree is most likely going to leave in free agency.
Most likely. I think that they've anticipated his leaving. I don't think they expected that he would jump up the pay scale like he did. So they budgeted, and he just moved himself up. It took him 3 years to develop, and in that 4th year, bam, he exploded.
Yeah.
So they weren't prepared strategically to offer him the kind of money that he's developed into. So
yeah, and that's
is going to be the guy on the other side next season.
Though watching that slow development of Dupree, it is refreshing to see the fast development that we both had with Watt, and now that we're seeing with Highsmith, it looks like I think Highsmith and Watt are going to be a real force in the playoffs. As you know, maybe not as disruptive as Bud and Watt would have been, but it's not that far of a drop off.
Well, and one of the big things there about development is here's with the coaching. Joey Porter love him to death.
Yeah,
he was not a great coach, and as a lot of great players are not.
Yeah,
they don't translate. It's not the same skill set, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think you do either. But Dupree, who I always thought was somebody who was right there on the verge of making a big play, but was a little bit out of position. He ran in too fast, and somebody but he was there. He needed to have somebody actually coaching him. I can't help but think of when Andy Russell would talk about the story when Chuck Noll brought him in.
Yeah.
And he thought, oh, he's going to congratulate me for making the Pro Bowl. And Chuck Noll says, I don't like the way you play.
Yeah.
What? And, he's like, you're trying to be the hero. I'm going to make you better. And it seemed like the Bud Dupree finally got that understood about how to position and come at the right angle. And that was something that, we're seeing Highsmith do immediately.
Yeah.
So he's somebody to be excited about for certain. And Watt on the other side, this guy is Defensive Player of the Year by far. How many holding calls did he not get on him? You realize after 4 years, he's already well past the pace of setting a team record for sacks.
And I just saw Bruce Smith contacting him or reaching out to him. They're stating something in the media that, he's on pace to get my record, who's a 200 sack guy. He's already got more sacks than Bruce Smith did at this point in his career, than Bruce Smith being the great defensive lineman for the Buffalo Bills team that made 4 straight Super Bowls. So,
he is something special. He's going to cause the Browns a lot of problems. As I told you, I was watching a little bit of the Browns coverage, and from their point of view,
yes,
they're concerned about their offensive line in this matchup, particularly Watt coming back. They cited that as an area of concern because so far in 2 games this year, we've really gotten after the quarterback.
Yes.
And the first game was a pick right off the bat by Minka on Baker. But Baker has not done that much to make us really feel afraid. And I don't think that's going to be as big a deal as stopping Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
is a point of reference to beating them on Sunday.
So, and now the Steelers have a sack in 73 straight games, extending the NFL record. So that was a big one when Wormley got that first one. Everybody's like, yes, they get to extend the record. So that was
they're now in sole possession, the only team in NFL history to lead the league in sacks for 4 consecutive seasons.
And that's huge.
Amazing.
And that's a great point, Bill, because I want to get your opinion on this. And this is something that no one in the NFL talks about, but by leading the league in sacks for 4 straight seasons, arguably on 4 different defenses, these last 2 years are closer to them what the first 2 years were, because first year was a Shazier year. The second year was without Shazier. We were in shambles. And now we've been rebuilding these past 2 years with the Minka years. So how in the hell is Keith Butler not a head coach candidate or in the conversation for being a head coach candidate with what he's doing, setting records for this defense that's been in flux for the past 4 years, yet still leading the NFL in sacks for all 4 of those years?
I'll say the same thing I said about with Dick LeBeau. That was a guy who never, he got his head coaching chance with Cincinnati, which is a bad choice to go to. He was a head coach for his, that guy, he was born to be a head coach. He just had the,
he was born to be a coach in general. Yeah.
He would have been perfect for a head coach on a team that had more stability than, the Bengals, which, by the way, he was the one that crafted the team that was able to be inherited by Marvin Lewis to be successful quickly. Yeah. He made a lot of those picks and oversaw that team. So why is Keith Butler not? The same way that Dick LeBeau got a little bit overlooked. And I think he's just not getting the national recognition. Maybe because, the Steelers have run the same system. He's just utilizing it. They just not, sometimes it's that presence by the media and how much hype they get. But this guy is, hey, don't talk about it. We'll keep him as a defensive coordinator. But hey, if you want to hire Randy Fichtner, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I know, right? We'll push him out the door. Now, here's an interesting stat, too, that I wanted to bring up from the game, and that's Avery Williamson, who's done a solid job here since Spillane's gone down and really is starting to make plays. He now has 53 tackles as a Steeler in 4 starts, and that ties TJ Watt for 5th on the team. That is a crazy.
That's amazing to me, is that he stepped right in. And that was, although the first game was obviously a problem because, Spillane called the plays.
Yes.
And we were already shorthanded in that game when he first went in. But since he's raised that game, he's brought it. So it's not been as big of a hole as, it could have been.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be great to get Spillane back. And we really will need it over that middle of the field, because we're going to be going against some teams that can, have a lot more to bring as far as weapons on offense.
Yeah.
To have 3 linebackers there, especially with the range of all 3 that can make plays, we can do a lot of creativity on the front that will make the loss of Bud Dupree a little bit less impactful as well.
Yeah,
Butler,
and it was interesting.
As you were saying.
Yeah, too. That I didn't expect Mason Rudolph to outplay Baker Mayfield. And that's exactly what happened in the game, other than Baker Mayfield not throwing an interception, but being 17 for 27 for 196 and a touchdown. But I thought he was more impactful with the way he used his legs with his 44 yards rushing. He was able to extend some plays, reset the sticks a couple times, and to seal the game at the end. But still, I mean, a lot of people are really hard on Mason Rudolph, a lot of Steeler fans in general, and that was because he was playing injured last year after his big hit that he took in that Ravens game. He was never really quite the quarterback again until he came back again the second time, and then he immediately got hurt again. He ended up being IR'd with his shoulder for the last week. So, I liked his poise. I liked him being able to go through his progressions, and I liked him being able to take his shots deep and actually hitting them with accuracy as well downfield. So that, at least as far as for me, for a Steeler fan, you being an old Steeler fan as well, we know our backups. We know what Steeler backups normally are when you get into a game. I think Leftwich was the last guy I was probably excited about to be a backup, because I knew when he'd get in the game, he'd do well. The problem was he couldn't stay in the game because he'd always get hurt.
He always get hurt, yeah.
But I loved Leftwich, but we've just never had that backup quarterback that I was confident in. If Ben couldn't play, I'm like, it's all right. We got Leftwich, because that's what happened when Ben was suspended, and then he went down, and then we threw in Batch, and Batch had a good game, and he won a game.
I was a big advocate for Charlie Batch as a backup.
Yeah,
I like having that veteran backup.
Yeah,
it's been something. Fortunately, we have not been hit as much by Ben being out for a game here and a game there, because they have put an onus and big heavy emphasis on protecting him in terms of not taking hits.
Yeah,
that was the big problem between Arians and Rooney.
Yes,
saying, hey, you change this up. No, I won't. Change it up. No, I won't. Okay, you're gone.
Yeah,
you're retired. Got news for you.
Yeah,
because that was Art Rooney II, knowing quarterbacks are lasting longer.
Yeah,
you don't want him taking the hits, and he's taken a lot less hits over the last half of his career. The first part.
Steelers rushing defense still needed some work. Obviously, last game, Nick Chubb had 14 carries for 108 yards. That one big carry, obviously being the touchdown. And the interesting aspect from that run, Nick Chubb is the first Browns player with a rush over 40 yards for a touchdown since the Steelers played Jim Brown in Week 4 of 1958. So that is an old school stat.
That's old school. Wow. Not surprising considering what some of the running backs have been, but I think the Chubb is for real. Make no mistake that he is somebody that can cause us problems, and definitely having TJ back in the lineup, Hayward back in the lineup, it will make a big difference. And also having our full core of linebackers with Spillane, as we were talking about, back in there.
Yeah.
He's the key to stopping, not Baker. Make Baker beat you is really, that's going to be the narrative for that. If we lose to Baker Mayfield throwing the ball, then so be it.
I just don't see it happening with the way the Steelers defense can get after the quarterback and make him uncomfortable, especially with their full complement. But there's one thing I want to get your advice on. You just put out an article talking about TJ Watt, and basically the media right now is loving everybody but TJ Watt, but the numbers really defend TJ Watt being Defensive Player of the Year. And I want you to talk to Steeler Nation about what you went through and what made you write this article.
Well, I don't think the entire media is, but there are some that just do not want to give the Steelers credit.
Yeah.
And particularly the Pro Football Talk Florio and Chris Sims.
Yeah.
He actually starts off by saying, no, Aaron Donald is the best. 25 seconds into this clip. And okay, fine. If you have that, make your valid point. Yeah. I'm open with Donald's not exactly a weak candidate.
Yeah.
I can't argue with how great he is. 2-time defending, he's won the war twice.
Yeah.
But his reasoning was so flawed, because he actually says that Watt has more help. He starts citing off players, and they don't have.
When the Rams are arguably the best front seven in football.
Wait a minute, they don't have a great pass rush, and I'm like, they're number 2 in the league. They had over 50 sacks for 2 straight years. If 53 sacks on a year is not a great pass rush, then Chris, what is? So he just contradicted himself, and the numbers he came up with. You're just an average fan. What's the most basic stat that you look at to grade a pass rusher by is how many sacks they have?
Yeah.
Like, he kind of was dismissive. What's he got? 1.5 sacks more? But he's got more quarterback pressures. And I looked up the number. Where did you get this from?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
He doesn't have more quarterback pressures. He doesn't have more quarterback hits. He doesn't have more TFLs. The TFLs are like a double-digit lead. It's insane.
So the only difference is, if Watt would have picked up your hidden place fumble, if he would have fell on that ball, or if he would have picked it up and ran with it, it would.
Yeah, if he would have picked it up and ran for a touchdown, he'd already be talked about as being it seems like sports announcers need that one play to stick in their head to make
Yes,
that,
exactly.
that is your Heisman moment. That is your defensive player of the year moment. Problem
Exactly.
is he's making plays consistently in every single game. I think there was only one game he basically, I equate it to being a clean sheet where he just had a couple tackles.
Yeah.
Every other game he's getting past defenses, interceptions, forced fumbles, knocking balls down, sacks, TFLs, just he is disruptive. You just put the game, every single game. And even the one where he didn't get any tackles, he was still disruptive. People had to put two guys on him, and he was still cutting through them and forcing them to run around. So
he stepped up his game when Bud Dupree got hurt.
Yes.
It's like it's like he did not step back. It lifted. So he brought it down the stretch. Even if the team did struggle, he is a player. And you're exactly right about they want that moment, that highlight play that stand out. And I've always disliked that view. I look at what is the larger sample size and the greater picture.
Yeah.
And give me that consistency over the moment, that highlight any day of the week. So no, TJ Watt, Chris Simpson's reasoning for it was completely wrong.
Yeah.
He contradicts himself later on by saying that he's the best player on the best defense. Wait a minute, what'd you say a few minutes before? You're pointing out the help that TJ had, but all of a sudden now it's there. Did you forget what you just said?
Yeah.
And you're using quarterback pressures in an obscure stat that you can't check, and they didn't source, and I double checked and it was wrong.
Yes.
It was almost half that total.
Yeah. So it's crazy, but obviously we both agree that TJ Watt should be defensive player of the year. And I want to get your opinion on this play, which the cameras happened to catch on the sideline for this past game. A little scuffle there between Isaiah Buggs and Carlos Davis, both young defensive defensive linemen, which were I think Buggs was a 6th rounder, and Davis is a 7th rounder this year. I think Buggs is a 5th or 6th the year before. And so to me, it's right in front of Tomlin. He looks like he's right there. It looks like something was said. He didn't like it. He took offense to it, and but it was over. At least it didn't go anywhere after that moment. So, you played football. What is this like when you see something like that on the sideline between teammates?
Thank goodness Twitter wasn't around for a lot of the stuff that got on between me and with teammates, because there were scuffles all the time. Sometimes you just rub somebody says something, it just happens.
Yeah.
When you're a big boy like that, you're not gonna back down and you get angry. You get caught up in the heat of the moment. And this is the first time these guys got a chance to really play. So their emotions are going, the adrenaline is really high.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be more easily keyed off. So that was just youth guys, big strong guys, just getting angry for a second, and it's over. It's part of the game. Well, they don't like it to be, but they don't want to promote it tonight, so they make a big deal out of it. There's nothing. This is two guys just going at it.
I like right here where Carlos Davis is like, he started it.
Yeah. Now you look like you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar.
Come on, coach. He started it. So, a little bit of fun that we can have as fans. Obviously, we know as football players, tensions are going to flare up. You're going to get upset. That wasn't a fist fight. It wasn't a grab hold and drag him to the ground fight. It was just, look, hey, he said something I offended to. I got it out. Okay, I'm over it, and we'll move on. Quick question over here on Facebook. We had Frank and Tina Shear asking, are the Steelers planning on using Derek Watt in the playoffs as a short yardage man? Hopefully. For some reason, I don't know. Hopefully they can get him in there with maybe Dobbs being the quarterback as well, and just giving Steelers an extra gear in the running game.
I've been an advocate of him being on the field, and he was on the field a lot more earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Not as a rusher though, but as a blocker. I like him in as a blocker, not being. We've not utilized a fullback like that to run the ball for the short yardage, but having a big guy like that throwing a block, and he's done it on when going in motion several times.
Yeah.
And he was in there as a lead blocker against the Redskins, or sorry, the Washington football team. And,
Yeah,
and he beat us on the play. So,
yeah.
I like him in there, but he's not a skill player.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be handing the ball off to him. So I wouldn't look to see these major changes, but I definitely like to see him out there in terms of some blocking schemes, because it did work earlier in the year, and kind of looking at that.
And the only point I want to make about Derek Watt is Ben missed him twice wide open on inside slants on goal line situations. And I hope they go back to it, because he was a tight end in high school. He's got excellent hands, and I'd like to see him make a catch and run with the ball, or catch for a touchdown, because he's got the ability to do so.
And on one of those that you're talking about, I think Ben threw an interception on the play.
Yeah, he went the other way, and it was just a bad throw.
He would have been looking. He was trying to do the look off.
Yes.
The spot was just wide open.
Yeah, nobody near him.
And but that's not somebody he has not been looking to check down this year, because of the talent that we have at wide receiver.
Yeah.
You can't blame Ben for, hey, these are the guys, because by the time he did look over the defense, I think that was the Ravens game. I could be mistaken.
Yeah.
They did react to it. So he's a guy I want on the field. He like all the Watts, they seem to have a very high football IQ.
Yes.
That never hurts. So you're putting a smart player, just put him in the role that will help us out the most, which would be maybe a catch. Obviously a great blocker, because he's a big boy, he's physical, and he could take somebody and clear a hole.
Yeah.
So anything that we can do to continue getting some yards on the ground, and even if it's, our expectations right now are low from our running game. So anything that we get is something to build on. If we can get even one or two big plays from the running game, it might be a difference in winning some of these games down the stretch.
That it might. And Steelers this year set a new franchise record as well, Bill. They only were sacked 14 times this year, and that tops their previous record of 18 sacks way back in with Terry Gilliam and Bradshaw in 1974.
And Ben led the league in attempts.
Wow. Without playing a game.
I could be wrong on that. I know he was going into it he went into week 17 leading the league in attempts and in completions. I think Ryan overtook him.
Oh, that's right.
He might be second league in attempts, but bottom line is, going into week 17, he was the least sacked quarterback in the league. Yeah. And the most attempted passes. That says something about what, the strategy and his headiness. He's not playing the 2008 Ben card where he's shrugging guys off. You see that occasionally, but he hasn't really done that for a long time either.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the times he's been sacked has been because he's waiting, to placate Antonio Brown's plate and wanting to get open and forcing some passes there over the last several years. But he has not been that guy that's been getting hit that often. Yeah. He's been a lot more, savvy. And this year he's been, he's the most savvy version of Ben we've ever seen.
Definitely is. And for the injury situation, just to update everybody, coming into the game for next week, I just watched the press report with Mike Tomlin, and he stated that Robert Spillane and Matt Filer, who are on injured reserve, both have a chance of coming back this week. So that is big news for our inside linebacker core and our left guard, which is right now the thinnest on the team. Terrell Edmonds also has a chance of coming back, as well as Chris Boswell. They will practice this week, because even though both of them missed practice and the game last week. And just
is a big one.
Which one?
Getting Boswell back probably is the biggest.
Yes.
Because even though we've had no field goals, no special teams points.
Well, we had 3 field goals last game, and I thought Wright did a good job of kicking the longer ones. He had 2 of them over 45 yards last week, which is something I wanted to see out of him. Because I wasn't expecting to win the game, but if you got to put Anthony Wright in the game, you got to let him try to kick some field goals.
Yeah.
And it looked like his leg strength would have been good from 52. So
it's more about the pressure of the moment now when the playoffs start.
Yeah.
Because
He might be
Every
too
kick
young. He
he-
doesn't understand the pressure yet. Like a lot of those.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
Yes.
and ignorance is bliss for these young kickers, and they're just out there trying to do their best, which he's done. The only thing he's done is gone out and made every single kick that we put him out there for. So I
And-
can't fault the guy for his performance. Obviously, he doesn't have the leg strength that Boswell has, of being able to get that ball consistently into the end zone in this cold December weather, and now coming up January weather, which is important to do because this is the time of year you start seeing kick returns because air gets colder, ball can't travel as far. It's falling at between the 5 and the goal line as opposed to being 5 to 8 yards deep in the end zone now. So
he's proven that the pressure has not gotten to him. He's kicked how many game winners?
Yeah.
You just feel he's a guy that you don't think twice about. As long as he can get out there and he's healthy, you feel very good about him maybe kicking a 50-yard field goal on the road with the pressure if it's a game winning. Yeah. So that's probably, I really believe honestly that would come into play after this game. I feel very confident going into this week, even if it wasn't for the Browns' problems.
Yeah.
When you put that on top of it, I don't like beating somebody because they're going through that kind of a situation.
But you have to play who you play. I mean,
yes, it is. That's true.
I think it's unfortunate for the Steelers because the Steelers were on such a roll before they had to get to that instance where they, like we said, they played 3 games in 12 days. And as opposed to when you're normally playing 3 days in 12 days, you have a week and a half break after your 12th game.
Which is something the media like to ignore.
Yep. But they rolled right back in the next following week, 7 days later. So if you wanted to extrapolate that and say 4 games in 18 days, that is the insanity of it. No team has played 4 games in 18 days in league history.
And you can tell though the injuries happened in those weeks.
Yeah, they did.
The guys did not get a chance to get a rest.
Yeah.
And that team was just beginning. The Steelers were just finding that habit that I was talking about.
Yep.
That rhythm. They were ready to play that Thursday night game.
Oh yes. There was no doubt in my mind that they weren't going to blow the Ravens out of the water on Thanksgiving night. It's like
they were dialed in.
Yeah.
They were dialed in, and that messed that team's rhythm up. And then the injuries on top of it. That game gets played normally, and they get their break. This team would not have that 3-game slide.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And then they would have been able to enjoy that break, reset for the next game, and instead everything just kept getting thrown at them with 2 days practice, and it was just crazy.
Remember, Washington had a extended break, and we were playing on 4 days.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that was the first game that we've lost winning by 14 points or more in 30 years?
Yeah.
Since Chuck Noll's days.
Yeah. Yeah, so now we're back to playing Cleveland finally makes the playoffs for the first time since 2002. Congratulations, Cleveland Browns. You get to play the Pittsburgh Steelers again. So
and guess who they played the last 2 times they were in the playoffs?
I know. That's
they were 0-2 against the Steelers in both those games.
They have never beaten the Steelers in the playoffs. Steelers have only lost to one division opponent ever in the playoffs, and that was the Ravens night game just a few years ago. So that's I always love, like, people say, oh, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in the playoff, 3 times in a row. It's like, one, you rarely play somebody 3 times.
Yeah.
Because the playoffs don't always mean you're going to play them in the playoffs. But when you do, you already know how to beat them because you've done it twice. So
we've only done it against Baltimore, against Cleveland, against Houston.
Yep. Yeah.
Was it twice against Houston, 79?
Yeah, but the Steelers have never failed to do it, I should say. If they swept an opponent and saw them in the playoffs, they never failed to complete the 3-game sweep. So that's for the Steelers, Steelers not that much of a deal. So so their last time the Cleveland Browns had a win in the playoffs was the Bill Belichick coached 1994 team when they beat the New England Patriots in the first round of the playoffs that year. Who would have known that Bill Belichick would have gone to the Pats? Too bad we couldn't have just kept him in our division and kept kicking the crap out of him.
No, he would have. In that organization, he never would have went anywhere. They didn't know what they were doing.
Well, I don't know. When they went to Baltimore, they ended up winning Super Bowls. So, Ozzie Smith's always been a great mind for acquiring talent and drafting. I mean,
That's
kudos to
assuming
Ozzie Smith.
that they would have went with Ozzie Newsome because they were
Or Ozzie Newsome. Thank you for the correction. Yeah, wrong Ozzie. Ozzie Smith's the baseball player.
Yeah.
Thank you. See, this is why I always have Hunter on the show, because he always corrects me for getting names wrong. So I appreciate you being able to do that for me, Mr. Washinski. I appreciate that.
But I was at that 94 game.
Oh,
That
nice.
was excitement city. The first time in years that you really felt like we were a Super Bowl contender. Truly felt like we were, as we definitely should have been in that year. And 2002 was the big comeback.
Yeah.
And watching Maddox do his thing, that was an exciting year as it got. Our secondary was terrible that game, and that caused the Browns to question because of one game.
Yeah.
That threw their quarterback situation to chaos.
Yeah.
Again, that's where I go. Well, who's doing what over the course of a longer period of time, and not just a highlight game, That's why you have to look at the bigger picture. And that's one of the best things about our organization. And one of the, as I put out some topics that I already have in the backlog, looking about why we do what we do, and I'm saving it for the off season, but, doing some research and reading some of the old books, including Dan Rooney's book. I think it's a required read that came out in 2007.
Yeah.
Talking about from him being a kid and how his father operated and how the team operated and why the team struggled so much. Some of the things that, the Chief could have bought the New York Yankees, and he was a bigger baseball guy than he was a football guy.
Yeah.
And she was ceding the Steelers being broadcast to the Pirates because Dan's like, why are we doing this? Well, it's baseball, son. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore, So the fact that he got named president of the team only because it was like, well, you've been doing the job anyway, so we'll just make it official, and that was it. He'd been running it anyhow. It's kind of funny to see, and I've got a lot of those stories there and from other pieces that why we do what we do. We're not a knee-jerk reaction team, never have been.
No.
And that's why, we've been able to sustain success. And
I just need to make a quick shout out because our boy Santonio Holmes just tweeted Big Ben is my quarterback, and that's the verified account for Santonio Holmes. So cheers. Thanks for watching our show. Santonio,
thank you, Santonio, for making that catch.
Yeah.
And we love you for it.
And definitely, like, my biggest argument was you were always the playoff MVP that year. You had that big return against San Diego. You had that big catch and run on the broken play against the Baltimore Ravens. And then
he was the only guy who scored an offensive touchdown against the Ravens in all three games. So don't think it's just, and Santonio proves what a Steeler is and what after even leaving, he's kind of found his way back, and he's more, hey, I'm a Steeler. I remember, it just goes to show.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're truly black and gold. You're black and gold forever. We love you for it, man.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP Santonio Holmes. Ryan, also, we're time for questions for Steeler Nation. I'm going to grab a couple here from Facebook, and then we'll roll over to the page and we'll grab those. So Ryan, how you been, man? We always know you're around. Ryan Stansbury's always follows the show. He asks, do you think Ben is rushing his deep passes? I'll let you take this one, Bill.
One of the things Ben has done this year has been, especially through the first 11 games, he did this a lot. He picked his spots. He was waiting to see the one-on-one matchup. He was reading the defense. So he did not go down the field on most of the time down throughout that winning streak until he saw the opportunity for him to do it. And that's what he's been doing most of the time. And when we had our stretch there, we're struggling. Yeah, he was actually getting their own ball too quick and underneath as your breakdown showed.
Yeah.
Just forcing it too fast, not letting it play out. So not going down the field as he's been rushing it. It's actually, he was quicker to throw it short.
Yeah.
Like this, his stretching the field out again, picking those spots, being more aggressive about it, and trusting that, hey, a lot of the struggles that was coming in, the guys were dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. That's where it started. They dropped definite touchdown passes against the Ravens in the second game. So a little bit of confidence got lost because of that rhythm and the games by everybody involved.
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to get it back. He knows what he's doing. As long as those guys catch the ball, we're going to be good. Don't worry about that.
Cool. And Frank and Tina Shear, they want to know, are the Steelers going to have fans at the game this weekend? We are still trying to find that out. That answer is supposed to come today. So right now, I know friends and family are approved. So that's somewhere around
reports on that.
Yeah. Yes, that's usually about 500, but they're trying to get it up to around 7,000 for the game. And we will find out today. I think Governor Wolf is supposed to let us know what that Thanks. Yep, I got the beard growing. This is a 2-month beard right now. We got that on Twitter. They're checking that out every day. I've been going ever since my birthday, November 1st. I've been letting it go, and I haven't even trimmed it yet. So I'm going to see if I can get to Kiesel.
You're going to go with Ben's beard for the off season?
Yes, it was Kiesel-esque. Kiesel-esque.
Oh boy.
Yep. So we'll find out that later on today, Frank and Tina. So thanks for that question. And Ryan also wants to know if you've read the book, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, the Steelers book. I have not.
I have.
Oh, nice. Who wrote that one?
Yeah, extremely good. Extremely good. And I like the books that tell the stories and don't just tell we give you a breakdown of what we already seen.
Yes.
But talk about a little bit what we don't see and we haven't known. That Dan Rooney from the first person talking about how Heinz Ward's contract was settled in 2005. It was Jerome Bettis had a private meeting, who set up the private meeting or brought Ward in there. It was just the three of them. And at that point in time, Dan's not running the organization anymore.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the chief. And it's his son running it. He just gets there. They didn't talk numbers. It was just talking and trust.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that book came out 1 year too soon because he could have talked about 2 Super Bowl wins.
Yes.
That one. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the team as under the 2 wins rather than just the one, because he didn't have as much material.
Yeah.
On recent years that were great to get some insight on.
Yeah. And those are always great stories. Like you always get the story of the chief and the Immaculate Reception. And he says, well, he would have loved to have seen it, but he was in the elevator going downstairs to console his team on the playoff loss and to tell them they did an excellent job while he's in the elevator going down, the entire crowd erupts. So those insight stories are just like lore for Steeler fans and such a great way to get them. And now we're on the port of our webpage from SteelerNation.com, where Bill and I are both members. Bill posts as FSF. I post as Cope. And /Steel has a question for us. So, Bill, if Spillane comes back, who do you think will start at the inside linebacker positions?
Given Tomlin's history, he tends to go back to the man who's been performing.
Yes. We find out today about the fans.
And it depends on his health. There's an uncertainty about it.
Yeah.
I would expect that if he's 100%, he tends to go with his normal guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the disruption. It's just been Tomlin's MO. It's what he goes with. He does not, for good or bad. And I think sometimes to his detriment, he doesn't experiment enough. But it's who he is, and I would expect that Spillane's 100%. But if not, he's going to go with Avery.
Yeah,
and
one positive you're going to get no matter what, too, Bill, is they have a legitimate 3 inside linebacker rotation now, because like Baron Batch was not as good as the third, in my opinion.
Mark Barron.
Mark Barron. Thank you. Wrong Batch. Damn it.
All right.
Yes, you got a job here, Bill. You corrected me twice, so thank you. Yes,
you're exactly right. They're going to rotate around anyway, so who starts is not as important as snap count and rotation, and he'll get them in and see how it works. It's not like the offensive line where you want to keep the guys in the entire game. Yeah, and
you're right. And at least in that situation, without having Bush available at all, those are definitely the 3 best inside linebackers we could have for the playoffs moving forward, and that's what we want to say.
And one thing, Butler has a lot more control in that defense, so you might see formations with all 3 of them in there.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised that
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
That's the beautiful part about Butler is that he does knick-knack it. That is not the same defense from 2 years ago, the pre-Minka defense, and it's not the same pass rush. It's not the same 3-4 zone blitz. It's evolved. We asked for more pass rushing from our defensive linemen. You know, Tuitt had his 11 sacks. Hayward didn't have as many, but boy, did he seem to be disruptive.
Yeah.
The stats didn't tell the true story of his disruption this year.
Exactly.
But they expect more of a pass rush from it. They do different things with our defense, except for that those corners still have a whole heck of a lot of territory and responsibility to cover, which prevents them from, being able to anticipate and make big plays, because in that cover 3 that we love to employ, which is to our strength, we don't really have, especially with this year, we haven't been putting those linebackers in coverage as much.
Yeah.
We've been using them as a pass rush. In traditional cover 3, your linebackers, your outside linebackers play more in coverage. And if you want an example, just think, what did James Harrison do in Super Bowl 43? He was supposed to pass rush, but it's his call. It's what he sees. And he's, he made the decision, I'm not going to get to him on this short, and they're this is more of a threat. So he backed off. We haven't been doing that with our linebackers this year. They've been more of a pass rush. But you might see these guys in that middle zone because they have the range, particularly Spillane and particularly what we've seen out of Avery. Yeah. Vince is more of our power guy there and tackle for loss type of guy.
Well, that's something that Avery's been doing now too, because this is something that he did not get to do with the Jets. He's already got a sack and 2 TFLs, where he had 0 TFLs on the season before coming to our team. So,
that's the
one thing.
Who knows what's going to happen? Play, that cover 3, you can come from all kind of different directions. Yeah. Yet you can put these guys and cover them in the middle area of the field and disguise it a whole lot better. Yeah. Because the cover 3 is the easiest coverage for a quarterback to read. Oh, wow. So you have to put a lot of different wrinkles in it. Yeah. And it got predictable in the last years under LeBeau. Yeah. To the point that Brady knew exactly where to go. Yep. He had our defense exactly scouted perfectly. Yes. And we didn't have the guys that could play man to man. Yeah. So that's why the only reasons they had so much success against us is they knew exactly what we were going to do.
So move back to another question. We got Cooley Man asking a question, and make sure you get this right or you might get banned here, FSF. Yeah. Little Cooley asks, gadget plays with Dobbs in the playoffs or no? So he's asking, would you do gadget plays in the playoffs or utilize Dobbs in the playoffs? I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm firmly a yes on this. I like the wrinkles. I like using gadget plays.
I like him too, but maybe 1 to 2 a game with him just running it. I wouldn't try and put in any when an example of, hey, we hand the ball off to Antoine Randall and he does the quick pitch and somebody else runs it in. None of those type of, coordination type of plays that we used to do with Randall. Yeah. You haven't played him enough. But for a simple, catch you off guard and a quick sprint. Yeah. Not on a 4th and 1 for certain, but so depending upon how the game flows, catch somebody off guard and let them run for there might be a 8-yard gain that keeps the drive going. Yeah. Put you over the 50-yard line, get you in the field goal range. Yep. Just pick your spot. But 1 to 2 plays a game. I've been wanting to see that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And Wig wants to know, is there anything in the tape that indicates that for some reason Rudolph may be looking better or may be better at throwing the deep ball than Ben?
Keep some things in mind there. The Browns are really hurting a defensive back going into that game.
Yes.
Not playing. Their top 2 corners were out. Yeah. And the guys they have in reserve, they were just outmatched by Claypool and by Schuster. Claypool and Schuster are big physical guys. Yeah. Like I said earlier, they basically could post up. So the Browns are really, that's a big point of concern, even coming from Browns' point of view, which I told you earlier. If you didn't catch it earlier on, I was watching some of their newscasters talking about what they thought, and they thought that was they were really big on getting Ward back, who is a phenomenal defensive back. They really are exposed back there. So If Ben's in that game against those defensive backs, he's going to tear them up too. It was just a bad matchup for Cleveland all around, and it's still going to be one because they still are thin, even if Ward does come back. That's their biggest, and like I said, the biggest thing we need to worry about them, Chubb, and they're going to, our running game versus their pass rush defense. Our running game is obviously it's just a plus. I like whether Ben's in there or Mason. That's just not a great judge for Mason to go by that particular game because the matchup was really heavily weighted towards us.
Yeah. And Hooch wants to know, look into our crystal balls here and tell us how we see the AFC first round playing out. I will say the game, and you just tell me which team you think is going to win then here in the AFC. We've got the first game, which is going to happen on Saturday for the AFC, will be the Colts and the Bills in Buffalo. How do you see that going?
Got to tell you, when I see a team as hot as Buffalo going, they seem to be kicking on all cylinders. They're pumped up. This is a game, I'm not that big on the Colts for it. Buffalo wins that one.
Yeah, I like the Colts defense. I like their ability to move the football on the ground too, to possibly keep the ball out of Josh's hands. But it being at home in the cold is going to, Phillip Rivers has never done too well in the cold. I remember him trying to play with the San Diego team against us in a playoff game. Yeah. And I remember two San Diego girls sitting in front of us in jeans and like light sweatshirts before having to go in and buy a terrible towel blanket. So, that's, I see it being a close game. If they get enough turnovers, yes, Colts could win, but yeah, I expect the Bills to win this.
Unless the turnover come in there and they do what they did against Green Bay. Yeah. It's going to take some flukes. I actually think that the Bills take that one.
So how do you see the Ravens Titans game working out?
As a physical freaking game, I tell you what,
they're going to beat the hell out of each other.
I would love to play the winner of that game. Whoever wins is going to be beat up.
Yeah.
As far as Buffalo goes, I think they're going to cruise, personal opinion. But this one is going to be a physical hard hit because both teams are physical.
Yes.
That's how they're both running the ball. Derrick Henry run the ball.
Yep.
And still, Lamar Jackson is still the same quarterback with the same flaws.
Yep.
Despite the fact they ran for 100 yards last week, he's still throwing it down the middle of the field, not to the outside the hash.
He's a running back that throws the ball.
The team still has the same weaknesses that we've exploited in the past.
And Tennessee exploited those weaknesses last year when they upset them, being the low seed playing the number one seed in the AFC. So the game plan is there. You know what Vrabel's going to do? They're going to be, crowd the line of scrimmage and forcing Lamar Jackson to beat you with his arm.
And they're not a great pass rush of a team, so that's their biggest weakness is not exploited in that game either. Because he's not going to be. You're not going to send Lamar Jackson back like most quarterbacks are going to be back there 30 plus times. No, they're going to try and run it. I actually like Tennessee in this game because of it is a matchup that
I do too.
Ravens do not. Against a lot of teams, they play in the Colts, for instance. I would definitely say the Ravens, but this is a matchup game. I think the Titans are going to, besides being at home, I do think being at home is of advantage regardless. It is your own environment. You are not sleeping in you're not traveling. So I like these factors, and Tennessee just has Vrabel, and they have a never get die attitude. They keep coming back at you no matter how much they're down. That game on Sunday was indicative of that. They do have flaws, but I think they're going to take this one again. And it also has a lot to do with the fact that Lamar's weakness in throwing the ball and not being outside the hash is going to come into play.
And Mad Insomniac's last questions for us. He wants to know, also, what do you want us to do on the first drive that may lead to different results? The first quarter offense, obviously the first drive of the game is atrocious. And I don't know about you, Bill, but my thought to fix that is just go no huddle the first drive.
Come on. First off, catch the ball when it hits you in the hand would be helpful to that, because how many drops have we seen right out of the bat?
Yes.
The drops have to be taken into account. So you got to get the first down, catch the ball, and it's there. So we've been predictable on those drives to start. Yeah, come out in a no huddle, come out attacking a little bit, and throw a team off balance. I'm not so much worried about scoring on the first drive as getting the ball and getting the momentum, getting some first downs. And if we do that, make sure you're playing on that side of the field.
Yeah, and we got some
scoring is obviously the ideal, but the game is won by consistently outplaying the other team.
Yeah,
get down that side of the field, keep it going. Well, a lot of our times we're really scoring on the second drive of the game.
Yeah, we are.
And it technically goes into the second quarter.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're not scoring much early in the game, but really it's drive 2. They're just getting the momentum. So don't let the stats fool you too much.
Yeah. And Ryan, awesome. I'm glad that you checked out you understand the beard going on. You're asking if I'm going to keep it through the championship. I'm going to keep it as long as I can, Ryan, right now. That's what I'm doing. Donald Cather, you're asking, is Ben playing? Ben is playing. He's all set to go for this upcoming game. And then Bill Johnson wants to know passing game or running game. We obviously need a mixture of both, but we are a passing team. Yeah. That's the big thing. Sean McGowan, does McFarland get a hat this week? Also thoughts on Sean Davis, that potentially getting another start Sunday. Yeah, I mean, McFarland might not be playing at all this week. And the reason might be because the Steelers may have all 3 quarterbacks with helmets. And that means Josh Dobbs and Mason Rudolph will all have helmets and will all be active as opposed to doing a third quarterback inactive, just so they can utilize Dobbs' skill sets, because he's shown that he can be
and that will be
positive plays for us.
That will go back to Cooley's question there. If you see him with a hat, I think that you're going to see him, even if it's trying to get somebody to jump off sides. I bet you'll take a snap if it's even that, trying to draw somebody with a penalty.
And I love what Sean Davis is doing. He's been playing excellently on special teams all year. He saved a couple fumbles for us on kick returns when he's supposed to be a blocker, which would have killed us in those games. So he's playing smart football. He played a good game last game. I'd be fine if we have to have somebody come in for Edmonds. Might as well have another starter capable safety jump in and do it. And I'm fine with Davis doing it if he ends up being that guy.
And Edmonds is somebody, I want him back healthy, because there's he's been criticized a lot, but he's come a long way. And he's had a lot of tackles. He's been kind of like a linebacker in there, especially in that cover 3, because you got 3 guys covering the back end. Really, that's what it's all about. So I call it 3. He's playing in the middle and he's hitting guys. And when we have the rare chance of doing the cover 2, we've had the lead. That's when he got his 2 picks, by the way. They were playing back. He was doing what the safety is supposed to do, and he got 2 picks on the year for it in one game. And that we don't often employ it now. Without Bud, we're probably not going to employ it as much. Or without Hayden, I mean, we're definitely we're going to be hesitant to cover it that way. But he's been making great plays all year, even if they're not highlight plays. But I like the way Davis has played and smart. If we're having to resort to him and give Edmonds another week to rest, there's nothing bad about that. He's been in enough games. He's played enough. He knows the system. He's not going to be a liability.
Yeah. And Derek Lore just wants to know here quickly, is Joe Hayden going to play this Sunday? No, Joe Hayden is out. He was COVID positive. He is out for 10 days, which means he missed the last Cleveland Brown game, and he's going to miss this Cleveland Brown game, though Eric Ebron and Cassius Marsh have a chance of playing this week because they were close contacts to Hayden. As long as they come back negative, they will be ready to go this week. So might get some guys back there. Now, last question for us here from Mad Insomniac. Which of the young guys really stood out to you yesterday or in the football game?
I got to tell you, Highsmith was somebody who I've been watching too.
Monster.
He was phenomenal. I mean, he was the featured linebacker in that game. Yeah. And with everybody else being held out, he stepped up. He played big. So he showed that, hey, maybe we don't have to worry about that outside linebacker position.
Yeah.
Going into next season, we've got a guy there who's got some snaps under his belt. and has some ability.
Yep.
So Highsmith stood out to me as the highlight of the game for
Nice.
The young guy.
And he still 9 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL. That's a monster game for an outside linebacker. 9 tackles for an outside linebacker is huge on our team. We never our outside linebackers are lucky to get 6. So big game for him.
As a point of reference, TJ Watt has 53 tackles
exactly.
total, 43 solo on the year.
Yeah.
So for a guy to have 9 tackles,
yes,
it shows that the range that he's got. He's a bigger, stronger guy than Bud.
Yeah.
He's not as fast, but he's big and strong. So if going against Nick Chubb and running, I'm feeling comfortable having him out there.
Yeah. And I want to say there was a couple, one on offense, Kevin Dotson. I love watching him play, and I do not want to see him lose his spot for the rest of the year. I love the way he plays football. He is excellent both as a run blocker and as a pass blocker. For me, like even if Filer comes back healthy, if Filer's going to take a spot, I want it to be Chooks' spot. I don't right tackle. I do not want him taking over that guard again. I just don't.
I've got a feeling that a pectoral injury, not disclosed, but it's a second pectoral injury. I just have this feeling that it's going to be Dotson and Okafor starting at on the line with Filer and reserve this week. Remember, they will never come out and admit this, but he still is on only a 1-year tender.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at Dotson as your future.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
On there, I think maybe that's part of the reason why they've left a core 4 in there the entire season. Pretty much realizing you're going to have to need him next year anyhow.
Yes.
And
get him as much snaps as he can and get him as comfortable as he can, because he might even have to flip flop and play the left tackle spot with Villanueva possibly leaving in preseason. And I'm a big fan of Banner. We talked about him as well, and I think he could hold down the right side as long as he doesn't have a freak injury like he had, unfortunately, in his first game starting, which he is a starting caliber. We'd be talking about Banner a lot if Banner was still on this team. Banner is
or we would not be talking because we're not even recognizing the offensive line when they're doing their job.
Right.
That's part of it. The guy does their job. They don't get that much credit a lot.
Yeah, you're right about that. There is one other person I want to talk about on defense that's a young guy that's been in there the last couple weeks. Big position switch going from safety to middle linebacker. That's Marcus Allen, man. Guy's playing. He's playing well. He had 7 tackles, one TFL. He's starting to make plays, and he was disruptive back in the preseasons when he was a safety returning interceptions and fumbles for touchdowns. So, I'd love to see him start making those plays when it's the playoff time and stuff like that as well. But I at least want to give some credit to Marcus Allen and even to, Mason Rudolph, getting to see him come back in his 3rd year. And
I have to give him credit. Let's give it where it's due. I've been critical of him.
Yeah.
And he played a very solid game when, he helped bring the team back. And really, the fact is the Browns got 1 interception that should have been called back. It was it's obvious. Stars get noticed and guys who aren't stars aren't. Ben gets hit like that. Every flag on the field is coming out just because.
Yep.
You earn that. Mason hasn't earned the eyeballs on him for protection, but that was a badly missed call.
Yeah, it was. And I'll leave the last question here for our good buddy Ryan Stansberry over on Facebook. Black and yellow Super Bowl, maybe Steelers Saints in the Super Bowl. And, us being Steeler Nation, I'm always going to root for the Steelers being in the Super Bowl. I'm fine with it being an all black and gold Super Bowl. What do you say, Bill?
First off, we're not yellow.
Yep.
It's gold.
Yeah.
We're not yellow. Not yellow. There's shades of gold, man. We're black and gold.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. See, I'm fine with the song too. I love the song. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, old school guys are gold. I know how you young crowd like the yellow more. I mean, I'm fine either way. I'll take our color, yellow gold, over top of the Saints gold in the Super Bowl if those teams.
I like the Saints' chances, except for the risk of not having Alvin Kamara. Who is a big. We might not follow a lot of teams outside of our norm, but I can tell you Kamara is a ball player, and the Saints are a good team.
Yeah.
That his potential loss could knock them out right quick.
Yeah.
Peyton is a brilliant offensive coach, though. He does find a way to, make up for what guys are missing. But he's been the guy who they have relied a lot on. So it could come to a quick end just before they even get a chance because of the COVID. So that's been my team. That's actually been my pick for the NFC all year long.
Awesome. And thank you very much, Bill. You made it through your first podcast with us. And Steeler fans, if you guys want to check out Bill, come on over to SteelerNation.com. We both post on the forum. I post as Cope. Bill posts as FSF. So jump on the forum. If you just want to read, that's cool. If not, you can make your own account and ask us questions. And we love talking football, and we do it
Absolutely.
nearly all week when we're not writing articles or getting ready for podcasts. So thank you so much, Bill, for being part of the podcast with me, man. I really appreciate your time.
Anytime, Striker.
Cool.
Striker.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, you're good to hang up, and I'll be talking to you soon. I'll shoot you the text as soon as everything's up.
Sounds great, man.
Awesome. So visit our total sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, on Twitter to be part of their signed merch giveaways done every week at Total Sports ENT, or check out their website, www.tseshop.com. Guys, this is your time. Come on over with that extra Christmas money. You got $600 burning a hole in your pocket with this refund check. I know you can't pay for rent, so you might as well get some Steeler gear, like this Steeler Nation podcast t-shirt. So come on over to Steeler Nation, click the gear page, click the apparel page, get one of these beautifully fit, nice, comfortable t-shirts. All thanks to SteelerNation.com, and thank you very much for gearing us up. SteelerNation.com is the best site for fast, unique Steeler content on the internet. Click on the podcast button to listen to one of our many interviews, or click the forum button for the best football discussion on the web. Subscribe to the Steeler Nation YouTube channel so you can be the first to know about our video uploads and our film breakdowns done by both myself and Bill Washinski. We love breaking down films, and we both have our segments. So come on over to www.youtube.com/C/Steeler Nation to check out these videos. Tweet us at Steeler Nation, Instagram us at SteelerNation.com, follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN podcast, and Instagram at Steeler Nation podcast. Or you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SN_Striker. Thanks for joining us on the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Bill Washinski, rooting along with you, as always. Go Steelers!